everybody. I hope everybody's having a good week this week. So, this week, what's popping and dropping is an Easy Moon pop up card. So, why don't we head over to Design Space? I'm going to show you everything that comes in the file, and I'll meet you over there. Okay, guys, here we are in Design Space. This is the Easy Moon pop-up card. This is what the file will look something like when you open it up. These two moons here are stencils that I cut out with acetate, and you don't have to cut out both of them. Just choose whichever one you like most and cut it out so we can use it to create our moon. Don't forget to go up and name and save your project so you can have it for later. And if you want to add any additional pieces to your file, go ahead and do that. Now, if you'd like, we can go ahead and get all of our pieces cut out, meet back at the craft table, and I'll show you how to put this together. I'll meet you there. Okay, guys, now that we are back at the craft table, we can get out our card base and our pretty paper. This week, we are going to make our pretty paper again. I'm using white cardstock this week. It's 65 pounds, not very heavy. And then we're going to need our piece of scratch paper to protect our mat. The inks we'll be using this week are these colors. I'm just using the same old inks that I have, which I don't have very many of them, but we're going to make it work. So I'm going to use frayed burlap, dusty concord, stormy sky, tumble glass, and then these two from Stamp It Up, which is Orchid Oasis and Star Sky. So to start, I started with the frayed burlap, and I wanted to kind of make it kind of a like a glowy sky. So I did this frayed burlap first, and I'm just gonna make kind of a, after I brush my thing off, a circle in the middle. And you can do this as light or as dark as you want. And just keep going until you get it to however big you want it and however dark you want it. And I'm just keeping in mind as I do it is kind of a glowy night. Then the next one I started using is this Dusty Concord. It's a purplish color, and just started working on the edge of my pretty paper, and just keep working it around until you get it to your desired liking. Now I wanted mine pretty dark, so I just got to keep working it until I get to that desired color I'm looking for. And then I'm going to use some of the Stormy Sky. And do the same thing, just kind of work around my edges here. And then I'm going to start using these two darker colors. I'm going to start with my darkest one first, and then just start working it around. Now with this one, I am getting a little closer to my circle I made here in the middle. Then I'm going to go in with this one. And then you just keep going and going until you get it to the desired color that you like. So that's how we'll get our pretty paper. Then the next thing we can work on is our moons. And the only thing I'm going to use for the moons, is my frayed burlap and then the leftover ink on my other brushes. I'm going to just move my pretty paper aside. We don't need these guys anymore. So I have my frayed burlap here that I'm using. I'm going to get out my two moons. So then just choose whichever stencil you want to use for the moon. This guy here. And then we can take it and you can tape it down if you don't want it to move, or just hold it in place, whichever you feel more comfortable with. I'm just taking some masking tape here and holding it down on my moon. Make sure you don't, if you're using tape, that you're not covering up your holes. So I have my tape on if you're going to put that on. And then we're just going to take our fray burlap or whichever color that you have at home that you can work with, and then start working those little holes there. Once you have it to your liking, then we can take this stencil off. And then there's our little moon. And before we move on to our next step, let's go ahead and do our little moon. Now, I'm just going to choose some spots and then just put it on here. I'm not going to tape it down or anything. Now we can put this guy away. We don't need it, and we don't need our stencils anymore. Now I'm just going to take the leftover inks from my brushes here. I didn't clean them yet, except for my bird frayed lip. I don't want to use that one again. And then I'm just going to work it over the moon here. And then I just went kind of back over it with the brown one. Just keep going until you get it to your desired liking for your moon. I think I'm going to go a little bit darker for it. So now I'm just going to work on the little moon here. You might have to get your ink back out. I did, because I think I just rubbed too much off. I didn't have any extra ink on it. My two moons turned out like. Now let's go ahead and clean up. Then we can work our score line on our card base and put our pretty paper on that we just made. So let's go ahead and do that. Alright, so we have our pretty paper on. Now let's get out all of our pieces that go on the front and the inside of our card. So on the front, we're going to do the yellow piece for like light for the front of the house, and then just glue it on top of each other, line it up and glue it. And then we're going to put it just along the edge of our pretty paper. So let's go ahead and do that. And then I'm going to take my cat here and I'm just going to put him on my fence about like so. Now we can move to the inside of our card. And these guys just go down here at the bottom, like so. So let's go ahead and put these two on. And then our next little piece that goes on is our tree with the spider. And I'm just going to put it along the edge of my card over here. Isn't that looking good? I love it. Oh, and for the front, we can't forget our moon that we made. And that's going to go over here in the corner, like so. Now I've gotten our bats lined up on the front of my card how I want to put them on. So now I'm just going to go ahead and glue those down. So let's go ahead and do that. So this is our front of our card looking good. Now let's turn it over to the back and work on our little note message area. So we have our cat. For my cat, I just use cardstock, and then I'm using black vinyl to put on top of it like so. And then we have the area in the middle to write a message. So let's go ahead and put this on. Now we have our cat done here. So let's go ahead and glue him on the back. All right, we have that done. Moving right along. Why don't we get our pieces out to our mechanism, which is this guy here, and we'll get our moon out. We can start working our mechanism. We have an X here in the center of our piece. So choose whichever one you want to work, and let's work those diagonal lines first. So I got that one done. Now I'm going to move over to this one and work it. Then once I have those worked, let's work that straight line down the middle of our X. If you work those lines really good, it should fold into place like so. On this one without the tapered end, and we can work that. It's going to be a valley fold. And then on the other one, we have one at the closer to our center, and then we have one down at this tapered end. So this is what it should look something like once you have it worked. And it should fold up like so. Now this hole is going to help us line this piece up in our score line. Now you can put your mechanism anywhere in the center of your score line. You just want to make sure your moon is not going to go, or whatever you're using on the top of this is going outside of your card. I did about 2 inches down for my moon. And this doesn't have to be precise. So once you get this guy lined up in the score line, so our center line should be on the score line too. And that hole will help you see if we have it placed on our score line. So if you want to mark that so you know where you want to lay it next time, then we're just going to fold this guy up, and we're only going to put glue on this area of our piece. And if you want to do one at a time, you can, or do them both. That's where we're putting the glue. Now I'm just going to kind of pinch the two sections that we have glue on, and I have my little mark. I'm going to try to line it back up with that, and then we want to make sure it's on our score line. Give that second to set, and then once you think it's dry, you can work that in your card. Then what we're going to do is take our tapered end here, which is a valley fold, and then we're just going to pull this guy down and glue it on that tab. And you want to not go past that score line there. And that's what it's looking like when we have it glued to that tapered end. Now for our moon, it's going to go on this bar down here. To test it out, we can always use double-sided tape or something that's not going to be permanent here. And I'm going to put my moon edge and just to where I can't see my black piece anymore. And then I'm just going to give it a test. And that seems to be working good. So I'm going to gently take this back up and put glue on this. Now I'm going to go ahead and put my words on. Alright, so we got our letters on the inside. Now I'm going to go ahead and put my letters on the front of my card. We got those on. Now the very last thing we get to do, which I love this part, is we get to put some bats on our moons. When you put them on your card, you need to make sure when you put them on, they're not catching on your card base. The bigger bat is probably going to be better on the left hand side of our card. And I just have a little double-sided piece of tape on the back of my bat, and I'm doing this just to make sure I can get an idea that it's not catching anywhere. And so now I've got them on, and I'm just going to give it a test. And this guy over here, if you notice when I'm going to close it, it's kind of catching on my grass. Okay, that works. That's not catching on anything. So I can put my two bats. I'm thinking about adding a third bat, so I'm just gonna do some double-sided tape and give it a test down here. This is where I think I'm going to put my bats because it seems to be folding closed nicely. So I'm going to go ahead and glue those down. And if you want to put a little mark, just so you can have an idea, you can do that too. So I'm just going to put a little glue on my bat where I know it's going to be on that moon and place it down. Just a side note, guys, when you put things in your card, you just need to be cautious of where you're placing it because it can catch, as you notice the moon shutting here and you see these letters down here. If it was a thicker item, it would probably stop it from closing. And the same thing over here on our right side. You got to be careful because if you were to put something right there where that moon is starting to turn, it might catch on it. So just a thought when you're going to add additional things or different things in your card. So that's it, guys. Here is our card. I really like how this turned out. And you could do a lot of different things with it. So we have Eek, I love you to the moon and back. These bats and the moon, I'm loving how our moon turned out. I did go back in with a little bit of yellow and rubbed over the top of both of my moons. So you can see a little bit of a yellow tint there just to make it look a little glowy. And then on the back, we have a nice scary cat to write a message in. Y'all, how does the moon cut his hair? He clips it. Guys, I want to thank you so much for stopping by and crafting with me. Don't forget to stop by next week to see what's popping and dropping. Bye.